All right, week 4 in the books, college football. Obviously, next week's going to be enormous with a top 5 showdown with Georgia and with Alabama. But a pretty big week. I think we saw that, first of all, I got Brent Rollins with me, writes for Rivals, works for PFF, kind of got all things covered. And Brent, when we talk about this week, week 4, so many different places to go. I enjoyed, taking notes, watching the games, a bunch of ranked games, a bunch of playoff pictures affected, a bunch of people that I think are going to be talked about more down the road. But what are the things we need to make sure we hit?
I mean, I think the funnest game of the day, at least most exciting down to the wire thing, was USC Michigan.
I can't.
Which, by the way, you were on the money with the prediction for
Well,
that game.
it doesn't happen often, but when we do, we'll take it, Brent. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, like you have to know. I've just seen it too much now in college football. Like teams that have pride and that we know who they are and they're tough. Like Michigan's not going to lose their pedigree in one season. Like this is a team that's been to 3 straight semifinals at least and won a national championship. So they're going to. When you tell them they're bad and they stink and I've heard all that negative press, they were going to be positive and they were going to come out with a purpose. And Khalil Mullins, bro, like that dude, man, I told you, he came to Michigan, Brent, as a
Mullings. I
linebacker.
think it has a G in it, by the way. But anyway,
It
yes.
does. It does. Mullings. I'm saying
Yeah.
it
Okay.
Mullings. Thank you very much, you jerk.
It sounded like Mullins. You sound like you're living the G. You gotta
Mullings.
give the guy respect.
Mullings, number 20. By the way, came to Michigan as a linebacker. And is really just, you've seen, obviously, Blake Corum was pretty good. Donovan Edwards is on the cover of EA Sports. Like, a lot of expected of him. But in the biggest moments, when Michigan needed it the most, he toted the rock. And
Yes.
so I think Michigan – what did you think about Alex Orji, too, by the way? He kind of inserts himself into the starting lineup. And
The
I
forward
didn't
pass
think
was not a part of their offense.
– no, the forward pass was optional. It was optional for sure. And by the way –
But it wasn't necessary.
no, but you know what? There's a couple things that stood out. Like you had to start fast. Michigan had to start fast. They had to capitalize on their crowd. And I thought USC got shell shocked. I mean, they couldn't get a first down. They couldn't run the football. Really
Field
struggled in the
position.
beginning. Yeah,
Terrible.
field position was great for Michigan. Defense for Michigan was great. But I tell you what, I do want to give USC a heck of a lot of credit because I thought they punched back. Like
Yeah.
I've seen USC teams in the past not punch back. Like they were stymied, 14-0, everything going the wrong way, and they absolutely swung back. They got their offense together. They got the ground game going. They got a little bit of balance, and they started to keep their quarterback upright.
Yes, and I think the first half was basically one team was able to block and the other couldn't. And then the second half, once USC was able to block, Miller Moss showed that, hey, I can ball and I can get back up and make throws. And by the way, even in the very last drive at the very end of the game, made a great throw, just dropped, could have had at least a Hail Mary chance. But the part that was disheartening watching the game was you fight all that way back, and then you're up 4 with 5 minutes to go, and then you go run, pass, and run off 59 seconds of the clock.
Bro.
It allowed Michigan to run their normal offense when they got the ball back and not be kind of panic. Now, one of those was a shovel pass that was kind of, but still, that was.
See, we've been together way too long, by the way, because I wrote down right here on my notes, 59 seconds left. Michigan's offense, or excuse me, you took 5 minutes left. You took 59 seconds off the clock total. You run the ball one time with 5 minutes left. By the way, Michigan's offense had 8 yards in the second half up until this point. 8 yards. You're at the 40-yard line, USC. You're at the 40-yard line. If you run the ball 3 times in a row and you take off 45 seconds of play, you knock that down by a couple minutes, you might make them use a timeout or two, and they cannot pass the football. But instead, USC goes pass, and takes off very little clock, and now you give Michigan a chance to run the football, which is all they could do, and Mullins makes a play. Mullings makes a big, huge play. Like, by the way, Brent, there was nothing there. I mean, he did all the work himself, breaking tackles, and that's the one thing I like about him. A lot of running backs run, and they assume they're going to get tackled. he never assumes he's going to get tackled the way he runs. He always falls forward. He always makes the first guy miss. That's why I talked about him going into the game. He needs to be the feature guy. He's better than Donovan Edwards. And he said, jump on my back, and he's got good vision. But you're right, man. I thought USC battled, but I thought they mismanaged the clock down the stretch because I understand it in most games. I think you have to take every game in an individual setting and an individual basis. And because Michigan's offense was so bad and my defense was playing so good, I think you got to run the football 3 times. If you don't get the first down, you punt it inside the 10, inside the 20. You make them go 80 with a couple minutes on the clock and see if you like your chances.
And they get uncomfortable potentially, as opposed to being – now, granted – I think it was, 2nd 11 after a penalty, and they hit the tight end on a little crosser to make it 3rd and 2, and then the big run from Mullings. But still, even first down, like all that stuff, you make them uncomfortable. You didn't do that at all. And then what you talked about him breaking tackles. That was like the perfect kind of hawk tackle roll that the USC guy was going into, and he just fights through it, runs right through it. It was amazing to see. On the other side.
But I learned about USC still. Because I still think USC's defense is night and day better. Like, I still think USC is a very good football team. They're going to be a tough out. They're going to be tough to beat for anybody in the country. Like, it won't be at Michigan Stadium. They won't be the hunted like they were in this game because everybody was clowning on Michigan. So I think Miller Moss showed me, dude, he got destroyed. Like, he got annihilated in the first half. And he kept getting up. And he kept taking shots, and he kept getting up. And the biggest thing to me was he trusted his protection, which is really hard to do. I've seen great quarterbacks, as soon as they start getting hit, they start seeing ghosts. And he did not start seeing ghosts. They got the running game going. They caught a few breaks. Their defense is night and day better. Their defense has made them so much better, so much more competitive, so much more disciplined and organized that if Lincoln Riley gets this offense going, it's going to be a problem. And it was fun to watch USC compete. It was a great football game. I mean, that was the best game of the day by far. And by the way, Josiah Stewart shot out
8 pressures, 2 sacks.
My boy number 0 from Michigan, he gets off the rock so quick. He's an undersized guy, but, man, he lived in the backfield, and those USC tackles were looking at the back of his jersey all game long. They did a great job at the end of the game stunting inside and taking away that screen pass that they tried to throw, the easy stuff when they were trying to waste some time. But Michigan, the pride. They showed the pride. They showed why they're Michigan and why they can take punches and keep moving forward. And
if they can't involve the forward pass moving forward, they still might lose some games here and there, but at least they have that identity and they can go run it down.
Their margin for error is not great. It's not great. They got to play great. They scored on defense. Everything has to go their way a lot.
Pick 6.
That won't happen all the time.
Yep. So speaking of new conference, Oklahoma gets the lovely SEC home debut, and unfortunately it didn't really go so well, particularly for the Sooners, and specifically on one side of the football. But Tennessee taking care of business against Oklahoma.
We already knew this. We talked about it last week. We've talked about it throughout the season. First of all, Venables is a great coach. I think he's going to be just fine. But and the SEC schedule makers did them no favors this year. Like, their schedule is brutal. But the offensive line has been an issue. It's been a problem. I don't care who you put at quarterback. And obviously they made the change. They went with Michael Hawkins Jr., the true freshman.
And played, gave him a spark, made it at least interesting a little bit in the fourth quarter.
At least they got in the end zone. But I didn't think by any stretch the offense all of a sudden was made whole. And I think this offense, if he is the guy, he showed me he's got courage. But so does Jackson Arnold. He's taking tough shots. But just the lack of running game, the lack of balance in the offense, the lack of being able to protect the quarterback. What do you hang your hat on when you're watching OU's offense? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have something great. And here's the thing. You might end up needing both of these guys because the best running play is going to be the running quarterback. Like, they're going to need to get the +1. That's just a big deal for them. They're going to need to have the advantage of running that guy over and over and over again. So you're probably going to need Michael Hawkins Jr. You're probably going to need Jackson Arnold. But the defense for Oklahoma is good enough to keep them in games. By the way,
Speaking of defense, I was going to
Are
say,
you going
speaking of
Tennessee?
defense, I mean, all the struggles on Oklahoma's offense were I mean, yes, it was quarterback play and handing them the ball, but Tennessee's defense has still shown itself to be very competent,
And we've already
quite
talked about
formidable.
this. They're not competent. They're great. Like, they are really, really good. And the only way you can beat them is if you have balance on offense. That's the only way you can beat them. You're not going to be able to beat them if you just run the football. You're not going to be able to beat them if you just throw the football. You've got to be a complete offense. And when you watch Tennessee's defense, they got so many defensive linemen they rotate in and out. So they stay fresh as can be. They got speed. The secondary, I think, is the only spot that I point to that I say, can you make some plays? But they did tonight. They made enough plays that they needed to. They're fast. They're physical. By the way, they're kind of nasty, which I really, really like. I thoroughly enjoy. They got a little bit of a attitude to you, and they want to put you down. 19 straight quarters without giving up a touchdown. 19 straight quarters. Like, that's incredible. And here's the thing. Nico and the offense didn't play great again. Like, they didn't play great. And
they were solid. They played to the game, basically, I think.
Well, and I love that about Josh Heupel. I think in the past I've seen Josh Heupel, he goes fast to go fast. And I think you saw a little maturity in the second half because he's like, unlike USC, he knew they couldn't score. And he was like, I'm not real worried about it. My defense is great. And I think you saw a shift. You saw the play clock go all the way down. You saw the running game continue. Now, listen, they still took shots deep. And Nico missed a bunch, by the way. He didn't play great. But the thing that's hard about this offense, Brent, is it stretches you so wide sideline to sideline with their splits. So they line up, for people that don't watch Tennessee that much, they line up with their guys so far out wide that they bring guys outside the box. So now you got a running quarterback that can run. You got a running back that can run physical. And so the box is lighter than normal. And the problem with that is you better have a really good defensive line that can own the line of scrimmage and play great because they're going to have a numbers advantage. But I thought Nico played okay. I thought the running game continued to do that. But when they stress you that much, Brent, here's the thing. It's just ad nauseum over and over. And then the receivers are out wide and they don't throw it. Then they're throwing bombs. And here's the problem.
Or he's throwing a laser in the seam.
Yeah.
On the money.
You break. And when you break with them, it's big plays, over the top. And so I think we haven't seen the best of Nico yet and in a big game. But the defense is so daggum good that it changed Heupel a little bit the way he coached, and I thought it was commendable by him for doing what you need to do to win, man.
And we talked about it before too, that how their schedule sets up well in terms of at least them being in a definitive playoff picture.
100%.
And now it's, hey, what do you do against Georgia and Alabama? Yeah, I think they take care of business. And
it's over. I mean, they play Georgia and they play Alabama, and then the other games they're going to win. Like, they're just – and, again, I think you can get crept up on and you can get beat and you can get caught off guard if you're not a balanced team. But their problem is with their offense is they put so much pressure on you, and then a defense that's really good. Like, I don't see Kentucky and UTEP and all the Mississippi State or Florida. It's not happening.
Barring a Murphy's Law, everything that can go wrong does go wrong game.
Tennessee's floor, by the way, is 2 losses to Alabama and to Georgia. That's their floor. Their ceiling, obviously, is much higher than that.
Yeah. All right, so maybe not as exciting of a game, but it was a ranked matchup, and it did matter big time in the Big 12. That's Utah at OK State. Cam Rising did not play. We got Zach Wilson's younger brother, Isaac, and he made enough plays, and Micah Bernard took care of business in the running game, and they took care of business in OK State.
And I love watching him play, man. And he's been that way for a couple years. He just runs pissed off. He runs angry.
I think it was 10-3, and he broke 3 tackles where he almost went to the ground, stayed up, and then accelerated. Amazing run from him at that point in the game.
And it wasn't beautiful offense by either team.
No.
It's actually kind of ugly. But this is typical Utah, because Utah, they put pressure on you until you break, and they're just physical. And what do they always do? They always make you earn it. They give up very few big plays. By the way, the time of possession in this football game was 42-30 to 17-30. Did you hear me? Like,
that's a bit lopsided.
I mean, just, and Oklahoma State continues to not be able to run the football, and Bowman trying to take shots out wide is still pretty inconsistent. But you're right about Isaac Wilson. He's steadying the ship. He's kept them undefeated, which is a big deal. And when we watch them, down the road, they play Iowa State at home, which is their next big test. But this team's looking at having a great season and being in the driver's seat to be in the Big 12 championship game. Got a chance to go undefeated, and we haven't seen the best of them yet. Because I tell you what, they got a bunch of tight ends they play that are good. Kiki stayed healthy, thank goodness. Like I looked like he was hurt at one point, but he's a really good athletic tight end.
Who they even use as the running QB.
Yeah, which is
the
fantastic.
Goal line. That's awesome.
And I thought, Gundy in that offense is, they try to get creative, but in the end, man, if you can't run the football and you can't have any kind of balance, like I don't see it being good. But the defense, for Utah gave up like 200 yards. I mean, it's just it's what they do,
it's
man.
Consistent.
They make you earn everything.
And that's what do you know about teams in college football? Like you know that you're going to get big plays with Tennessee's offense. You know that certain things are going to happen. You know Utah's going to play great physical defense. It's a constant. Friday night, we actually had a very entertaining game that Illinois went into Lincoln and took one in OT, and maybe what was the worst overtime possession in the history of overtime possessions.
Well, that was bad. By the way, did you think that should have been a personal foul on third down? I did. He stepped out of bounds. He gets hit. Interesting. It was like 3rd and 38, so I probably understand why the ref didn't call. But listen, Nebraska fans, just get your Lamaze breathing in. Like, get your woosah from Bad Boys. Like, it's okay. Woosah, calm down. I know this is what you've done over the past couple years is lose close games. And I could go over plenty of the opportunities that were missed and 9 penalties and – by gosh, your kicker's hurt for goodness sakes, and that just adds another element to it. Like, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't great. Rilo was still good. Did he look like a freshman?
He missed the one opportunity to put the nail in the coffin.
At the end, he did 100%, and he fumbled the ball. He put the ball on the deck a couple times. And it was not his fault in the end zone. By the way, that was not his fault. That was
an amazing interception,
amazing play. But I think you saw Nebraska's surrounding personnel, their defense was okay, but it wasn't good enough. And Altmaier looked great. Like
I'll say, he was in terms of outside of a few fumbles, that game was very clean and fun to watch, and the quarterbacks were very efficient. It's like, okay, we haven't seen a lot of that throughout where it's both teams, where QBs are playing efficiently, offenses are moving. Like, it was just good football, other than the few random fumbles that they had.
Well, and now you're looking at Altmaier and Illinois, which we probably underrated a good bit, but I think he was 6 turnovers, 0 interceptions coming in the game. That's 4 more now. I think he's at 10-0. And
he's got weapons. Pat Bryant, Franklin.
And typical Bielema team. I mean, just physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I was shocked how much Illinois ran the ball. They haven't ran the ball against anybody yet. And when you look at the Polar Bear and you look at all that mass up front for Nebraska, I thought Nebraska's front 7, after watching them against Colorado, I thought it would exert itself a little bit more, but it didn't. And it showed me that I still think Nebraska's on an upward trajectory. Chill out, Nebraska fans. But it showed me, too, that Raiola's going to have freshman moments. And we talked about that last week, by the way. I said that. Like, he's going to get fooled some. He's going to learn. He holds onto the ball sometimes too long, sometimes
careless.
Make big plays. But Nebraska, you're still in a good spot, and I'm interested to see how they respond. Listen, they got to go on the road now for the first time, so it's one game, but I still like Nebraska in their stock. But Illinois, congratulations! Everybody's been sleeping on you. We've been sleeping on you, and quarterback.
It doesn't get any easier for them though. They go to Penn State next week.
It's going to be crazy. Yeah, that's
going to be a good game.
Yeah.
We've looked at a bunch of different games as sort of maybe sneaky good games, possible upsets. And the one that you circled was Georgia Tech at Louisville. And even though Tech outgained them over, I think 100, it was 100-plus yards that they outgained them, Louisville gets 2 non-offensive touchdowns and takes care of business.
Well, and that's, the thing about Louisville is, we don't know much about them. Obviously, this was game 3. They haven't played any good competition, but Brahm's a good coach, man. I mean, he's a really good coach. And we talked about his offensive prowess, but their defense played pretty good today. And they blocked a field goal late in the game that really mattered, running back for the touchdown. And here's the thing. Here's what I like about Brahm. I don't see their offensive personnel, Brent, and I think any of it's really elite. Like, I don't see a lot of elite.
Right.
But you know what he does consistently is he creates big plays. Like,
Yeah.
57-yard touchdown, 30-something, 35-yard touchdown, I think it was, or 37-yard touchdown. Like, they create those big plays. And
Speaking of, did you see the Brooks touchdown catch?
yeah, not too shabby.
That was impressive.
Not
Getting
too
interfered
shabby.
with, spinning around.
Yeah,
That was,
it was up there with that.
that was
Marshall
impressive.
catch today at Ohio State was a freaky catch. The guy caught it, actually the quarterback made him near it in tight press coverage. But Louisville, they still got a chance to be. They play Miami down the road, which will be really fun to watch. And but Louisville, they did exactly what they needed to do. They've got a couple of really nice players when you look at them. And Tyler Shutt, listen, they're going to take deep shots. Like, they're going to push the ball down the field, try to make big plays. So I still don't know a ton about Louisville, but I do know that Brom's a great coach. I do know they're going to make big plays. They're going to be explosive, and apparently they're going to block kicks now. By the way, can I give you another team I saw that I was like, how about Clemson, bro?
That was my next note is, can we stick in the ACC? And granted, App State,
I don't care.
bad. NC
I don't
State,
care.
bad, but the look is different. The look is different.
I mean, it doesn't look like the same person with Cade
Well,
Klubnik. Like,
and watching the game against App State, he hits the bomb early in the game to Wesco, and it's almost like this elephant was lifted off his shoulders, and the ball is coming out on time.
yeah. Well,
And it's been a completely different look.
I like what they've done with him too. If you watch that game to start with, it was quick throw, 2 for 2, just like that. Short throws. It wasn't even for 10 yards total. And then they run him. And I love that, man. A guy like that who's always juiced, like Cade Klubnik, he stays ready. Like, you watch him, he's positive. When he played at Westlake, I think Westlake is where he played, but he put in a no huddle, and it was so fast. And I remember watching when he came in the game as a freshman, I was like, the whole tempo of this game changes. Like, he is so sped up, and his feet in the pocket are sped up. I saw that. I saw a 54-yard run, I think was his long touchdown run after that. And then even more impressive, he gets back in the pocket, he gets pressured, he escapes, he resets his feet and throws a touchdown pass. And I'm like, that's what you want to see from your quarterback. And listen, NC State, bro, true freshman quarterback in Death Valley, good luck. Like, it was over before it started.
Who has some talent, by the way. He had some talent. In terms of developing him. But anyway, it was not going to be good early.
He definitely got some talent, but like, starting in that atmosphere, that's one of the hardest atmospheres in all of college football to play. We know Clemson's defense is good. I think for them to maximize who they are, like, Cade Klubnik needs to continue to run the football, and they need to use that. I thought they should have used that against Georgia a lot more. Like, I thought he needed to carry the ball, honestly, 10 to 15 times, because he's a good athlete. He's a really good athlete. And I think maybe you start to see Matt Luke up front too, like his offensive line gelling together, getting more experience, the playmakers coming together. But I think Klubnik is the guy that he looks like a dude now. Like, he's the last couple games, and there's plenty of show me games down the road. But if Clemson has a balanced offense with Maffa, because he runs angry and he's big and strong, like, that we'll get a good version of Clemson.
So a couple other sort of around the at least top 10. Ohio State, to me, they're beyond talented compared to any team they're going to play for most of the season. But it feels like they're still a little too east-west for me. I think it's going to need to be more north-south eventually, but still, the talent is there. The QB run game hurt them a little bit today from Marshall.
It hurt him a lot, yeah. And the quarterback slipped on fourth down when it was a really good game early in the game, where it would have been interesting to see. But
I mean, and the punt, the drop punt that could have been 14-14,
which was
bogus,
borderline call. But we're getting a lot more of those, in college football. Yeah, I get it. Here's what the thing about Ohio State, just like Ole Miss, by the way, Ohio State fans. We're not just talking about Ohio State fans. They ain't played nobody. Like, I don't know how to judge you. Like, I don't know how to – listen, you spit the ball to Abuka on the perimeter and he goes 80, like whatever it was. And you get it to Abuka again, he makes a big play. Jeremiah Smith, like, I want to see Will Howard in big games. I want to see him when he has to make throws. And I know he's going to be hard to tackle. I know they're going to run the football. Here's another sneaky thing too, by the way, and we need to do a tape on this. Like, Travion Henderson and Quinshot Judkins, both.
Yeah.
They're both ridiculous. They're both dynamic. They're both quick. They're both fast. I consistently watch them. They don't see holes great. And I'm starting to see a trend of that. Now, Travion, I've seen that for years. But when he touches it in space, it's stupid. Like, right. It doesn't matter what league you're playing or who you're playing. He's faster than everybody else. But it's interesting to me when they run between the tackles, and I'm like, that was open to cut. Like, he didn't see that, and he didn't hit it. And so, listen, we're still up on Ohio State's roster.
Little things, yeah.
Yeah, we're
down
still
the road.
On Ohio State's roster. We're still high on them as a team. I'm going to be excited when they start playing some better squads that we can judge them. We can judge Ole Miss. But they're so supremely talented. They look great. They look great in their uniforms. I mean, everything about it looks like it's positive.
Speaking of, on the other end of that spectrum, though, we have top 10 Mizzou, who survives. Is that probably the appropriate word? At home,
I'm not
double overtime against Vandy.
Listen to me. I'm not done with Missouri, but I'm getting close. And here, Missouri, I love
that noise. That's the. I want to say something, but okay, and I'm going to say
it's like the Florida State comment last week. I'm positive they're not very good now. I see all the pieces, and I think they can be really good. But man, if it ain't penalties, it's missed field goals. I think they missed 3 today. I think they missed 3 field goals, and a colossal right before the half, go for it on 4th down near midfield. Think you draw them off sides, and Vandy hits a 57-yard field goal, and now they're up, and you almost lose it at the end of the game. A 4th and 1 at the end of the game that, I get why he didn't go for it, but 3rd and 1, I'd like to see you get it, And I just, with Missouri, whether it's penalties, whether it's, this week with the missing field goals, I want to see them start and put the games together. And I know their schedule gives them a chance to be really, really good. And listen, I see the playmakers. I mean, I think Noel's a stud at running back. Like, Schrader, as much as I thought it was going to be a big drop-off, it's not. Like, that kid's good. Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, like, they've got players.
There's an element of don't play to your competition.
Yeah.
Go dominate.
Yeah, at some point you say, like, all right, like, again,
and if not,
what is the old saying, though? Show me who you are, and it's my job to believe you, right? Like, when they show you who you are, believe them. And I don't want to believe this is who Missouri is, like, with all the mistakes and penalty. And listen, they played Boston College, who's ranked, who won again. Like, they played Vandy, who's not a bad team. Like, they're not horrible by any stretch. So I want Missouri to play cleaner, and I think they have the ability to be really, really good. Their scheme is good. Like, I think they're better than what they're showing.
Okay. Wasn't it also not a good day for the non-Power 4 teams? Northern Illinois lost at home to Buffalo. Memphis lost to Navy, which, by the way, had over 1,200 yards of offense in that game.
How many passing yards?
There was a few. Navy had some. I can't remember exact number, but I saw the total yards number and I was floored in some of the highlights. But yeah, not a good day for those guys. Some other just players. I thought that. Do you think Cam Ward is your Heisman favorite at this point in time, or is there somebody else that is numero uno for you at this point?
I would have gone Quinn Ewers because he had a moment against Michigan where he shredded them, and I appreciated that. Cam Ward's freaky and he's really good, but like Florida didn't do it for me for his Heisman moment. USF, they took care of business, struggled early but took care of business. And again, we talked about Miami the other day. Their roster's good, dude. Like, they're really, really good. And they don't have any holes. I don't see holes all over the place. And they should have a chance to run the table and be great with their schedule. I wonder with Cam Ward how many great games he's going to play in with the schedule.
To have that, but it'll just be statistics based.
By the way, Jalen Milroe, I think, has
14 touchdowns.
14 touchdowns through 3 games, which is silly.
By the way, that's a phenomenal segue because I think it's probably time to talk about Georgia and Bama because it's kind of a big game coming up next week.
I mean,
and I've watched a lot of Alabama's offense over the past few days.
Give me the skinny. What do you think?
And the usage rate for Milroe right now is unreal. Like, if he survives this season with that usage rate,
it'll be
you're probably talking about like Cam Newton numbers. that he's going to put up 2010 Cam Newton numbers because like he leads them in rushing carries right now. And everything on the run game is predicated on how they're using him. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Georgia defends him because he's such an integral part of their running game now.
Well, and then they got that young pup out wide, number 2, who is Freaky Friday showing people off.
Yep.
So here's the thing with this offense. The part that's frustrating is it can be the same play, but you got to defend it by multiple ways, and that's what sucks. When he sticks it in the belly of that running back, and he has the running back's offset. We're going to do a tape on this. Hold me to it.
Yes.
Like we're going to do a tape on this.
Yes,
when that running back's offset, and I'm playing defensive end in front of him, and he goes like the running back comes right here, and I mesh. Well, here's the problem. Somebody's got to get the quarterback. Somebody's got to get the mesh. Sometimes it gets washed, and I got to squeeze down a bunch, and then sometimes that running back will hit it north-south and make a big play. If I squeeze down too much, Milroe pulls it. Then they bring action across too. Now where I have to read that action, squeeze, and then they can also throw it to the flats. So one play looks like 30, and then they run QB power off of stuff like that where the running back becomes the lead back. So
yep.
And here's the thing about Milroe. He's not refined. He's not good throwing over the middle of the field. But the problem is he's good throwing deep shots, and he makes those plays out wide that hurt you. So how do you defend the outside part of the field at your best and then keep him in the pocket? Because the problem when you spy this cat is your spies aren't fast enough because
that's the problem.
He glides to 4.4. I mean, he's gliding.
And he's 225.
He's gliding, and everyone else is running full speed trying to catch him. So it's a Jalen Walker game. Can you get penetration? Mykel Williams is back. He's going to be back in this game. You know it. Like It's a Mykel Williams game. Can you do that? And then obviously it'll flip to the other side of the football too.
Right.
And
that's where I think if you're Georgia, your offense has to play a lot better.
Yeah, and that's where I think honestly, Brent, watching Bama, the number one thing I see compared to years past, I don't see a great defense. I'm not saying they're cheeks. I didn't say that. I'm just saying their pass rush isn't as great as it's been by any stretch.
You don't see the first round dudes that they've been pumping out over the past few years.
And they're very good, but I think there are plays to be made. I think everybody's probably going, wait a minute, Kentucky just held Georgia down and so on and so on. But I do think there was some of that look ahead. But it's going to be great. We'll come out with a couple tapes this week. We might talk to a few coaches from either side too to talk some ball and get ready for a big show. By the way, this one means a lot, man. I mean, when you're in the playoff era, and it would have meant more in the 4, but this is a big deal. And these teams could face off 3 times realistically. Like they literally could play each other 3 times. I don't think it will happen, but
no,
it's and throw in the past too. Like Bama's the only team that's had success against Georgia and Kirby Smart.
Yep.
Like
was it 49-2, and the 2 were Bama?
And that's a real thing, by the way. I dealt with it when I was at Georgia with Spurrier and Florida. Like it's a real thing that starts to
back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, and you're just like, my God, no matter what we do, we can't get it right, you know. And so I look forward to it, man. It'll be a big showdown, the first of many that we'll have with Georgia playing Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, like
Tennessee at home. Like
gonna be a lot of challenges on that Georgia schedule.
It was a fun day of college football, though. Like it was. I will say I was mad at YouTube TV because the Michigan game was not included in the 4 box and whatever I was doing. So I was having to do a lot of flipping and all sorts of things. But
stop your yapping. Stop complaining.
It's a fun day of football.
It's always a fun day of football. I don't care who's playing. It's a fun day of football. If the games are cheeks, it's still fun.
Yes, it was a fun day of football.
Well, we appreciate y'all listening. We'll continue to give you good content throughout the week. Again, like we always say, if you want to subscribe, if you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, you can tell us to kick rocks, and we will. But we will be back with a lot of Georgia, Alabama coverage this week, and Week 5 right around the corner. We're getting close to the halfway point.